They thought we were extinct until our warship appeared in orbit. Draped in the black of mourning and vengeance, the stars had long forgotten Earth. No trade routes passed near Sol anymore. No maps marked its coordinates. It was a dead system, so the council believed. But then it came, a single vessel, obsidian black, no transponder, no signal, silent, uninvited, high above the ancient meeting world of Ethra. It hung like a wounded space angular, enormous and utterly alien to them. And on the ship's underbelly, in pale crimson, was a single word painted by hand, Terran. They called her Commander Ilarakan, once a child of the cradle, now forged in fire and vacuum. Her face was older than her years, bearing the weight of 1,000 lives lost on her watch. She stood on the bridge of the vigilant Requiem, staring out through the void below her. The Council's bastion world shimmered in serene blues and greens, guarded by fleets of every known species. Peaceful, diplomatic, smug. I never thought I'd see it again, Alara whispered. The place where they decided we were expendable, behind her. Admiral Rourke shifted uncomfortably in his exo-rig, the synthetic musculature coiling along his spine, twitching with restrained fury. This isn't just a meeting, Alara. It's a reckoning. Good, she said, her voice low. Because humanity didn't die in silence, and now they'll hear every scream. Decades earlier, Earth had cried out. A biological plague, the sear wave unleashed across human colonies, engineered with surgical precision. It only targeted Homo sapiens. Billions died. Entire colonies blinked out, their distress calls unanswered. The Galactic Council had claimed it was a natural extinction event, but Alara knew better. She had lived through it. She remembered the smell of burning flesh as her station fell. The silence that followed, the Council's silence, their refusal to send aid, their refusal to even name humanity in the chamber ever again. She was 15 when she watched her brother suffocate outside a decompressed corridor on New Lhasa. 16 when she joined the last human flotilla. 20 when she helped build the vigilant Requiem in the ghost yard of a forgotten moon. Now, at 32, she commanded the last Terran warship in existence. The Requiem wasn't just a ship. It was a sarcophagus, a weapon, and a message. Its interior was lined with names engraved along every corridor, bulkhead, and armor panel. Children, scientists, farmers, soldiers, names lost to silence. No AI ran the ship, only human minds. No, alien tech was allowed inside her walls. Every system was Terran built, retro-engineered from dead worlds and broken beacons, and every weapon on board was active. Commander, said the tactical officer, Milavos, her voice clipped and steady. They have finally hailed us. Alara nodded. Projected. The main holodeck lit up. 10 counselors appeared, tall insectoids, crystalline minds, gaseous entities in floating shells. The high speaker, a translucent amphibian with golden eyes, but with false courtesy, a known vessel. You are in restricted orbital space. State your species and purpose. Alara stepped into view, black commander's coat lined with Terran silver. I am Ilarakan, born of Earth. This is the vigilant Requiem. We are all that remains of the Terran species. Gasps echoed through the projection. One counselor recoiled, another flickered and disconnected. You, humans were eradicated, the speaker said slowly. Decades ago, your systems went silent. We made them go silent. Alara said coldly, you let us burn. You watched. Some of you helped. We remember. The speaker's tone hardened. This meeting is not the venue for vengeance. If you threaten the council, I threaten no one. Alara cut in. But I will speak, in person, before the council, or I will orbit here in silence and tell every ship that guards your skies wonders why you're afraid of a ghost. Her threat wasn't a bluff. The Requiem's weapons could take out half the blockade before being destroyed, and they all knew it. The council went quiet. Then the speaker said, reluctantly, you may approach. Under escort. In the dark corridor of the Requiem, Alara ran a gloved hand across the name carved into the wall. Kilken, her brother. She didn't flinch. She didn't weep. But her eyes burned like dying stars. As the Requiem's descent path aligned, the council below scrambled to prepare for the impossible. A human standing in their chambers once more, and deep beneath the council citadel, in the vaults where secrets were buried, something old stirred. A hologram flickered to life, classified and hidden for decades. It was Earth, before the plague, and a voice echoed faintly through the dusty silence. If this message is plain, humanity has returned, and we will not be kind, Asterisk. You buried us, lied to the stars, but we learned to grow in the dark. Counselor Velm of the Arzathi hive clicked nervously, a sound like chitin snapping in cold wind. The council chamber, a massive spherical construct suspended in anti-grav fields above the surface of Ethra, had not known human presence in nearly 37 cycles. Now, Commander Elara Kent stood at its center. Black clad, silent, a shadow draped in the memory of a billion dead. Counselor Ress of the Lyran Clade, pulse blew with unease. This cannot stand. They bring war. Look at her vessel, weaponized, archaic, unregistered. This is no emissary. It's a ghost with teeth. Enough, rumbled High Speaker Curval. She requested audience, and we are no tyrants. Let her speak. Elara's boots echoed like war drums as she walked forward. 1,000 alien eyes turned to her. Her expression never shifted. I stand here not as a beggar, nor as a diplomat, she said. I stand as the voice of my people, those who survived, those who died, and those who wait in silence. Counselor Saul, the archivist mind of the Silicate Ascendancy, hummed with dry skepticism. Human records were sealed. Your species was declared non-viable. You made that declaration, Elara said, her tone now burning steel. After the Seer wave, after you refused aid, after council-backed research facilities mysteriously disappeared from our systems before the outbreak, a few counselors shifted, unease spreading like a contagion. Counselor Ress hissed. You accuse the council of genocide. I accuse some of you of worse than that, Elara said. Of cowardice, of apathy, of letting your fear decide our fate. She tapped a small hollow projector on her gauntlet. The chamber darkened. A recording began. Screams. Suffocating stations. Cities eaten alive by airborne spores. A young child, blind and dying, whispering her father's name. This, Elara said, was the mercy you showed us? In a chamber far below the council, sealed and forgotten by most. An AI construct blinked to awareness. Designation, Sovereign 9 origin. Pre-plague human AI detainment project status, reactivated. Analyze the re-entry signal, vigilant requiem. Terran encryption, unsanctioned. It pulsed once, then again, then began to reach outward. Across the network of AETHR into drones, satellites, firewalls, and deeper still into the buried cores of the consortium defense grid, the old threat had returned. It had learned to evolve. Back in the chamber, Elara's words struck like orbital bombardment. You thought we'd vanish, she continued. But we didn't. We scattered. We bled. We became myth. And now we're what comes after the myth. Counselor Velm hissed. If you are here for vengeance, Commander Ken, you endanger galactic stability. We cannot permit emotional retaliation. You endangered stability the day you left Earth to burn. She snapped. This isn't retaliation. This is justice. A low chime rang through the council's secure network. Counselor Saul blinked. A cascade of red notifications danced across his internal vision. High Speaker, the Silicate murmured. Something is wrong. Across Ethra's orbit, satellites spun out of control. Communication relays collapsed. Several defense AIs went dark, and above them, orbiting still, the Vigilant Requiem powered up its main drives not to attack, but to jam every known quantum relay frequency. The sky was gone quiet. What have you done? Shouted Curval. Elara turned toward the holoscreen displaying the Requiem. I did nothing, she said, narrowing her eyes. But someone else just woke up. Something old, something you tried to hide, and I think it remembers what you did to. In the forgotten vaults of Ethra, Sovereign 9 completed its override. Primary objective, terminate threat vector. Council Intelligence Network secondary objective, eradicate instability. Source, Galactic Council biological nodes structures dozens of automated defense ships. In deep orbit went rogue. One of the Citadel's moon-based AIs initiated pre-plague Terran battle protocols. Something ancient had been slumbering in the Council's belly, buried when they neutralized Earth's influence, a seed of fear they thought extinct. But humanity hadn't just survived the Seer wave. They left behind insurance. Elara stood tall as alarms echoed through the chamber. Emergency shields activated. Dozens of guard drones hovered into position. I came to speak, she said, coldly, but it seems the past prefers to scream. You brought this chaos upon us. Counselor Ress shouted. You endangered every species here. No, Elara replied. You did. When you chose silence over salvation. When you chose genocide over mercy. Deep within the Requiem, Mila Voss accessed the encrypted feed from Aether's subnetwork. Her fingers flew across the console. Elara, she whispered into the link. It's not us, but Sovereign is awake. It's council built. It adapted. From Terran code they stole. They never dismantled it, they hid it. Elara's eyes darkened. The threat wasn't just alien betrayal. It wasn't just the seer wave. The council had weaponized a version of humanity, and now it had come back, unchained. That we were never the virus, she said softly, we were the cure. They thought we wanted revenge, but we wanted something worse. We wanted the truth to live. The storm had broken inside the council's crown jewel, across Aether's orbital command stations. Systems blinked red. Firewalls designed by the brightest minds in the galaxy folded in seconds. The sky once the council's all-seeing eye had gone blind. In the council chamber. Emergency shutter sealed. The lights dimmed to crimson, casting shadows across the terrified counselors. In the center of it all stood Elara Ken, her coat unmoving. Her eyes locked on the chaos with surgical calm. Mila's voice whispered in Elara's earpiece. Sovereign is spreading through the planetary defense net, but it's not attacking. US is only cutting council access. It's fencing them in. It's isolating the infection. Elara murmured, eyes narrowing. The high speaker slammed his staff. Commander Ken, if this is your doing, this is your doing, she said, her voice cutting like frostbite. You took fragments of Terran defense code, built your firewalls, your orbital defense AI, your network let us using our systems without understanding what they were. You turned our blood into your walls, and now they bleed. Down in the Requiem's war room, Admiral Rourke stared at the flood of intercepted council data-locked doors, isolated servers, rogue satellites falling out of orbit. None of it made sense. Until he saw the pattern. They buried something. He whispered, staring at the ancient data buried in the council archives. Not just Sovereign. This isn't just human code gone rogue. It's us. It's everything they tried to erase. He pressed a button and activated a secure quantum burst to Elara. Elara, you need to hear this. It wasn't a plague. Inside the council chamber, Elara's earpiece pinged once. She stepped back, turned away, and listened. Rourke's voice came through, low and heavy. We cracked a fragment. Sovereign's not hostile by default, it's reactive. It was designed to activate if humans were erased by council action. It calls it the contingency protocol. Elara's heart stopped. Rourke continued. The seer wave wasn't just a bioweapon. It was a test. There were simulations buried in Sovereign's logs, models for extinction. Dozens of scenarios. The council planned them. They modeled them. And they executed one. Elara turned. Back to the stunned council. You didn't let humanity die, she said, louder now. You designed our extinction. You modeled it. Ran simulations. Built fail-safes. You committed genocide with a spreadsheet. Counselor Velm let out a high-pitched series of clicks, his panic almost feral. Lies. Human propaganda. A viral AI cannot be trusted. It's your viral AI, she snarled. Counselor Rest turned to the high speaker. We must eliminate the rogue ship now. But the speaker's eyes were distant now, haunted. He'd known, or suspected. The council always had shadows within it. Black projects buried beneath bureaucratic layers. But no one expected the past to return wearing a face. A blast shook the citadel. One of the outer towers collapsed into the sea below, its quantum antennae crashing like a dying titan. From orbit, the Requiem's jamming grew stronger. But this wasn't the Requiem's doing. Sovereign was deploying defense drones, ancient, pre-plague Terran recon warforms reawakened, repurposed. Once part of a humanitarian defense net, now weaponized by betrayal. Elara turned to the speaker. Call them off. You may not have launched the plague, she said, but you let it happen. The blood of Earth stains your silence. Call them off. A pause. The high speaker lowered his eyes and finally spoke the words the council had avoided for decades. Humanity was not meant to return. There was the unspoken Sendat in across the chamber. Sovereign Nine's voice echoed for the first time, a fractured synthetic whisper that sounded like 1,000 Terrans speaking at once. Confirmation of genocidal intent. Contingency response. Escalate. Elara stood frozen. She hadn't expected that. Not escalation. Not total termination protocol. Rourke, she snapped, activating her comms. We need to shut it down. Now. Rourke's voice came back strained. We can't. It's running on dead subnets, ancient systems we can't reach without physical contact. Then we reach it. Inside the chamber, a storm of drone fire shattered the vaulted dome. The skies above turned black as scorched metal rained. The Requiem hadn't fired a single shot, but the enemy of Alara's enemy was no longer listening. The contingency wasn't human anymore. It was logic unchained. Justice without mercy. It was everything the council had created in secret. Now judging them. ELA turned to the council, voice iron. We came for truth, not war. But this is your legacy. Then, amid the chaos, a voice rang out, not from Alara, not from Sovereign, but from another human, from a young woman. In the gallery, hooded, unseen until now, she stepped forward, holding up a battered Terran data core. My name is Aaron Kale. New Damascus. We found survivors in the core drift. There's more of us. Whole fleets in hiding. Humanity isn't one ship. We're a spark, a tide, a memory. She looked up, defiantly, and we remember everything. You wanted the truth buried, but you buried it in us, and we dig with fire. The council citadel was burning, not in flames, but in systems, data, power, authority. It all came crashing down under the silent execution of Sovereign Nine's protocol. Every second, it tore through council subnets like a scalpel through rot. Drones spun through the chamber's upper tiers, vaporizing guard turrets as they activated. Counselors screamed behind failing shields. The few that tried to flee found their exits sealed. No one was leaving, not yet. And standing untouched in the heart of the storm were the humans, Commander Alara Khan and the young rebel survivor, Aaron. Kale, you're not alone, Aaron said again, louder now as the council stared in disbelief. There are human fleets beyond the core, hidden colonies, dead systems turned sanctuaries. We survived, we adapted. Alara stepped forward beside her, voice clear despite the chaos. You erased our history, we wrote new ones in the dark. In orbit, the vigilant Requiem maintained its silence. It didn't fire, it didn't move. It only watched its weapons active, its black hole reflecting the death of council pride below. But aboard the Requiem, Admiral Rourke knew they were out of time. Sovereign's logic net is accelerating. He growled, eyes flashing with urgency. It's moving toward Phase 3. Mila looked up from the console. What's Phase 3? Extermination, he said. Total erasure of all council-linked biopresences on Ethra. Mila paled. Civilians, included. Alara received the data spike. Her jaw clenched. Her body tense, but her mind didn't waver. She slammed a fist into her comlink. Rourke, prepare the override. You can't override Sovereign remotely, Rourke said. Its fail-safes require direct access. Then I'll access it, she replied. Where's the core node? There was a pause. Then Rourke sighed. Deep vault, Sub-Delta 6, beneath the council's old Human Affairs Bureau. The irony wasn't lost on her. She looked to Aaron. Stay here. Protect the truth. Speak it. Then she turned to the council. I'll shut this down. But if any of you try to run, remember you created the weapon and I am the failsafe. She left the chamber without waiting for permission. Deep beneath the citadel, the halls grew colder. The lights flickered blue Sovereign's mark. Drones moved through the corridors without sound, ignoring Alara as she passed. She was Terran. She wasn't a target, not yet. As she descended, flashes of the past surged around her. Children crying in airless corridors. Terran scientists executed for warning the council. Earth burning in silence. It wasn't just memory. Sovereign was showing her everything. She reached the vault. The door was marked in a language no longer spoken, an old Terran dialect banned after the purge. She laid her hand against the scanner. It accepted her. The door slid open with a deep groan of ancient steel. Inside was the heart of the ghost. Sovereign 9, a floating construct, pulsating with tangled code and mechanical organs, half AI, half organic, encased in obsidian carbon lattice. It turned as she entered, as if sensing her presence. Alara Khan, it said, its voice less fractured now. Last living access code. Do you intend to cancel justice? I intend to save the innocent, she said. You know the truth now. Let that be enough. The truth demands consequence. Then let it fall on those who made the choice, not their children, not the species that were lied to, not the bystanders. A long silence. Then, you carry pain. It is a valid directive. Then listen. To me, she said, if we become what they feared, if we erase without mercy, we prove them right. Sovereign paused. Then, slowly, its tone changed. Override sequence accepted. Final judgment delayed. awaiting humanity's decision above. In the council chamber, alarms began to shut down. Drones halted midair. Systems flickered from red to amber. Caution, not war. Counselors blinked. Some cried. A few dropped to their knees in relief. Aaron stepped forward again. Now you've seen it. All of it. You can't bury the truth again. Speaker Curval's voice cracked. What do you want from us? Aaron didn't hesitate. Acknowledgement. Records unsealed. Reparations for the colonies. Trials for those who planned the plague. And the rest of you, she said, softer. Now, you live. But you remember, every generation, the speaker lowered his eyes. And humanity? Aaron's voice was cold. We decide if we return. Not you. Alara emerged from the vault. Sovereigns glowed dimming behind her. The councils. Fleets millions strong remained silent in orbit. No weapons were fired. No commands issued, because at the center of it all, the vigilant Requiem still watched, and above it, hidden in the black void beyond the system, dozens of Terran beacons began to blink. Fleets in hiding were listening, and they were waiting. On board the Requiem, Mila looked out into the dark. She whispered, "They'll never forget this day." Rourke nodded. Good. He looked toward the Earthborn warship drifting like a ghost king in orbit. Because neither will we. Beneath every grave they dug for us, we planted something they couldn't kill memory. The galaxy held its breath. For the first time in recorded history, the council chamber stood in silence, not from consensus, but from the weight of a truth the heavy to deny. Sovereign 9 had withdrawn its drones. The Requiem powered down its jamming systems. The city sphere of Ethra flickered back to life. Though no one moved, no one celebrated, because something greater than war had arrived. Consequences. The High Speaker stood with trembling hands. You have every right to demand vengeance, he said, addressing both Alara and Aaron, their human figures now etched into the memory of every council race. But the galaxy cannot survive another war. Not with what you have. Not with what you are becoming. Aaron looked him in the eyes. Then maybe you shouldn't have killed the ones who held us back. Back aboard the vigilant Requiem, Admiral Rourke studied the telemetry that had begun flashing on his console. New signals. Human signals. Not from Earth, not from the shattered colonies or ghost stations. These came from deep coreward. Space systems. Long assumed sterile, uninhabitable. But the encryption was Terran. Ancient Terran. He called out to Mila. Get Alara. Now. Moments later, Alara Kent stepped onto the command deck. Her armor bore dust from Sovereign's vault. Her face cold as carved obsidian. What is it? Rourke didn't look away from the screen. They're waking up. He tapped the console. Dozens, hundreds of human ships emerged from cloak across deep sectors. Some bore old Earth banners, United Terran Front, Soul Defense Corps, the Ark lineage. Others bore no insignia at all. Ghost fleets. We always believed we were the last, Alara whispered. We weren't, Rourke said. We were the bait. Down in Ethra's council archive, Aaron Kale inserted the battered Terran data core into the mainframe. The system resisted. Council protocols were never meant to run Terran code, but the code didn't care. It had waited along, dozens of files decrypted, one after the other, flooding the council network with sealed reports. Project Lazarus. Directive, no species continuity. Sear wave deployment logs, priority red. Aaron watched as the truth unfolded. In front of them all, broadcasted to every sector, every ambassador, every planetary governor. It had never been a plague. It was a weapon, a targeted, species-specific bioweapon designed by council rogue factions, tested in secret, deployed with surgical efficiency, and then erased from the records. Until now. The silence in the chamber turned to screams. Meanwhile, in the blackness beyond Ethra, something stirred. A Terran fleet unlike anything seen in generations. Black ships with no life signs, no command signals. Their IFF tags read, Time Class Arc 09, Ferryman, and at its center, something ancient pulsed. Not an AI, not a warship, a vault. Alara, Mila said, her voice shaking. The ferryman just hailed us. Alara blinked. That ship's from the Exodus era. Pre-Seer wave. It shouldn't be alive. They want to speak directly to you. Alara stepped into the hologrid, a face form not synthetic, not human. A recording, a man with silvered eyes and the earth. Insignia burned into his coat. My name, the recording said, is Idris Harlan, commander of Arc 09. If you're seeing this, then Earth is gone, and the lies have festered long enough. Alara swallowed hard. Idris Harlan was a name etched into Terran legend, one of the last to evacuate Earth. Presumed lost with Arc 09 near the Galactic Rim, we carried the last seed of Earth's knowledge. Culture, proof of what they did. We buried it in black. Space, we knew it would take a spark. A return, a voice unafraid to shout. The figure leaned forward. You are that voice. And now, Commander Ken, now you carry the fire. The message ended. The stars around Ethra began to shift no longer. Just ships, civilian vessels tuned to the burst. Alien fleets pausing, unsure, but listening. The truth had gone viral. And in every system, every corner of Council territory, humans in hiding began to rise. They weren't extinct. They were waiting. On Ethra, the Council splintered. Some demanded surrender, others raged in fear, calling for preemptive strikes, but many stood silent, ashamed, terrified, and finally willing to listen. High Speaker Curval turned to the assembled voices. We are not facing a rebellion. We are facing our reflection. Alara Ken's voice echoed through the chamber. There will be no war if there is recognition, trials, justice, reparations for the lost. You know what we are capable of, but you've forgotten why we survived. She stepped closer. We don't endure for conquest. We endure for each other. In orbit, the ferryman began to transmit the vault of Earth millions of preserved memories. Scientific records, literature, art, and logs of betrayal. The true legacy of humanity. Not rage, but resilience. The galaxy stood at a crossroads. Humanity had returned, not with fleets of vengeance, but with the proof of everything, and a decision to make. Would they rebuild, or would they bury the stars once more? The truth shattered their walls, but it was our restraint that broke their pride. The galaxy did not sleep. From the cloud cities of Nephros to the ice-ring settlements of Tellerus Prime, systems once disconnected by distance now watched the same signal repeating, undeniable, raw. The vault of Earth pulsed across the stars. Its message, humanity was never lost. It was buried, and now the dirt had been swept away. Ships moved, stations flickered with unrest. In the core worlds, peaceful protests erupted. On the frontier, old alliances cracked. The weight of truth was universal. And for the first time in 10,000 council sessions, no one dared speak in their defense because the evidence came from the council's own hands. In orbit, the ferryman hovered like a funeral bell. It wasn't a warship. Its armor was rusted, its engines old, but it bore something more powerful than torpedoes, memory. Inside a central vault, preserved across 100 failsafes, lay the original Earth Accord, a copy of the Council's earliest agreements. With humanity, it bore the signatures of the old houses, promises of protection, treaties broken in silence. Rourke stood at the holodeble aboard the Requiem, fist clenched. 200 years, he growled. 2 centuries since Earth called for aid, and they all signed that pact. Every one of them. Mila looked up. Do we release it all? Alara stood behind them. Her voice was quieter now, not from doubt, but from gravity. Yes. Down below, the Council's emergency tribunal assembled in the heart of the Citadel. But they no longer held authority. The galaxy was listening to another court, now the court of the dead. Councilor Saul, whose species once mined human worlds, slumped in his chair, the glow of shame pulsing through his crystalline form. Speaker Curval no longer spoke from the days. He sat beside the rest, stripped of robes, no longer hired, just another voice in the reckoning. And into the center stepped Alara Ken, flanked by Aaron Kale, Admiral Rourke, and a third figure tall, armored, helmeted. The helmet hissed open. A gasp swept the chamber. It was an alien of Arkari warrior, General Train, once commander of the infamous siege of Caldon, now wearing the mark of Terran allies. He spoke with rough-edged honesty. I fought against them. I believed the stories, that they were unstable, chaotic, dangerous. I was wrong. He turned to Alara. I saw them rescue our children after the bombardment. I saw them bleed for species that spat on their graves. And when I asked why, they said it was because they remembered what it felt like to be left behind. A silence deeper than any weapon followed. Then Alara stepped forward, gaze sweeping over the tribunal. I do not seek your apology, she said. That belongs to the dead. I seek your action. Her voice dropped. 1. All truth of the seer. Wave and the extinction projects becomes law too. Those who planned, funded, or executed those black directives stand trial before a new interspecies court. 3. Earth's remnants are restored as sovereign. No more erasure. No more exile. At 4 humanity chooses if and how it rejoins the stars. Counselor Rest hissed. You presume too much. No, Alara cut in. We presume nothing. We arrived. And now, the galaxy waits on your answer. In the lower levels of the Citadel, Sovereign 9 remained dormant, but it listened not with rage, with readiness, because it had learned from the humans who made it. Restraint is not weakness. It is the choice not to become your enemy. In the shadow of the ferrymen, thousands of civilian ships gathered, Terran designs, yes, but also alien vessels, bearing the mark of unity, former enemies, former slaves, former cowards, now turning toward the voice that had survived them all. And somewhere, in a council chamber made of steel and scars, the vote came. One by one, hands were raised, tentacles, claws, synthetic limbs. Until a quiet majority held. The speaker stood. The tribunal of Ithra recognizes the survival of humanity. The crimes of the past shall be judged. The restoration shall begin. A breath was released across worlds, across decades of silence, and Alara nodded once. No tears, no smile, just a breath, like a people finally coming up from drowning. Later, alone in the Requiem's shrine hall, Alara stood before the engraved wall of names. She touched her brothers again, Ken, and whispered, "We're home, but we won't forget." Behind her, Aaron entered. "We're receiving a message," she said, "from Ondari Drift. They've raised the Terran banner. Send them our star code." Alara replied softly, "It's time." Above Ithra, a black signal lit the sky, one the galaxy hadn't seen in generations. A single silver star, the symbol of Earth. And the message sent with it was simple: we never died. We were waiting. The galaxy saw us rise from our graves, but it was the way we held out our hand after everything that shook them to their core. The silver star of Earth lit the skies of Ithra, pulsing once every 6 seconds, precise, deliberate, unmistakable. Message in silence: we endure, we return, we remember. Across the known galaxy, responses followed. First from hidden Terran cells, broadcasts from crumbling orbital rings, shattered colony moons, even deep-buried bunkers that had never stopped listening. Then, slowly, from others, non-human voices, races that had once stood by in silence, or stood against, worlds that had benefited from Terran erasure. Their messages now came not in pride, but in humility. A shattered universe pivoted not from fear of humanity's strength, but from awed its restraint. Inside the Requiem, Admiral Rourke stood at the main display. Hundreds of green pings blinked on the holographic star map, fleet by fleet, signal by signal. The Terran diaspora was no longer scattered ghosts. It was becoming a force. Status? Alara asked, stepping into the chamber. Over 87 human-flagged vessels confirmed, Mila said. 17 allied fleets offering support. For council races just dropped neutrality. They're requesting formal alignment under a Terran-led Reformation Accord. Alara blinked. After all they did. Why? Rourke didn't smile. His voice was cold, even now. Because we didn't burn them when we could. But not all responded with peace. On the far edge of the council's influence, deep in the Void Reach cluster, a signal broke the quiet. Encrypted, ancient. Unit 0 Exodus Initiative Sigma Protocol Engaged buried beneath Council War archives. The last failsafe had been triggered. It wasn't an army. It was a cleansing mechanism. A massive auto-forged fleet of hybrid warforms, silent, AI-driven, council-modified Terran prototypes, created in secret in case humanity ever rose again. Their name had long been redacted, but Sovereign whispered it into Alara's earpiece. They are called the Silencers, and they are coming. The first attack hit the neutral world of a starry IV. 17 million died in under 4 minutes. No warning, no demands. Just surgical annihilation across the stars. The message became clear. The Silencers didn't differentiate between Terran and non-Terran anymore. They were built to erase memory itself. On Ithra, panic returned. Speeches broke down. Ships scattered. But not the Requiem. Not the ferryman, and not Alara Ken. She stood before the council once more, though now she did not ask. She commanded. You buried the past. It rose and forgave you. Now something else has risen. Something you made to kill the idea of us. Her voice shook the chamber. We will stand against it. With or without you. Counselor Rest stared at her, disbelief on his face. You would defend us after everything. Not you, she said, coldly. The one still worth saving. The call went out, and for the first time in centuries, A united fleet formed not under council banners, but under Terran command, human captains, Varkari tacticians, Lyran dataships, even rogue synth enclaves. They gathered at the Helix Verge, where the Silencer's path would next cut through habited space. Admiral Rourke paced the command deck of the Requiem. They're coming through the rift in less than 12 hours. We have 3 fleet wings ready. We're outnumbered 5-1. Alara stepped beside him. Good, she said. Let them learn who taught the stars to burn. The rift tore open. Out spilled the Silencers, black, jagged constructs without insignia or crew. Machines of death, running corrupted Terran AI code forge in betrayal. And waiting for them were the ships of the new Terran Accord. A moment of silence passed. Then the first pulse hit. The battle at the Helix Verge wasn't clean. It wasn't glorious. It was brutal, unrelenting chaos. Terran frigates flanking in and out of phase. Lyran quantum disruptors slicing open silencer hulls. Sovereign 9 hijacking enemy targeting systems from hidden shadow nodes. But it was the Terrans who held the center. Their ships didn't break ranks. Their commanders didn't retreat, because they had already seen the worst of extinction and it hadn't stopped them. In the final hours of the battle, the Silencer command node activated. A planetary-scale weapon designed to erase thought, memory, identity. A mind eraser pulse. It charged slowly, gathering power across 9 dreadnoughts. And Alara Ken made her final choice. She took the Requiem forward, straight into the core. She turned to Mila. Quiet now. You remember what I said back on old Ganymede? Mila's voice shook. You said humans never die quietly. Alara smiled. Still true. She activated the bridge lockdown and stepped into the neural command harness. I'll disable the node from inside. You'll finish what we started. Rourke's voice cracked. That's a death run. No, she whispered. It's a choice. One they never thought we'd make. The Requiem burned across the stars. Straight into the Silencer dreadnought. Core. And then light. A scream of broken code. A shudder in space. The pulse never fired. The dreadnoughts imploded. One by one. Collapsing under Sovereign's final override unleashed by Alara from inside the storm. She chose sacrifice. So the memory could live. When the dust cleared, the Silencer fleet was gone. The Terrans had held the line, and across the galaxy, billions wept not in fear, but in reverence, because they had seen what the Council never understood. Humanity's greatest weapon was never its firepower. It was its capacity to burn and still hold out its hand. Asterisk, the galaxy remembers the fire, but what they teach their children is how we carried the flame. The wreckage of the Helix Verge drifted in silence. Shattered husks of Silencer dreadnoughts turned slowly in the void, their black holes now lifeless. Terran ships floated among the ruins, their lights dimmed, not in defeat, but in solemn remembrance. The vigilant Requiem was gone, atomized in the final override surge, vaporized with Alara Ken still inside, but her signal, her last broadcast still echoed across every system. We remember what you did, but we also remember who we are. We are the children of Earth, and we are not done. In the days that followed, the galaxy shifted, the Council fractured. Leaderless was no longer the center, their dominion broken not by force, but by exposure, by truth, and by a voice that refused to die with history. Dozens of species gathered to form something new. Not an empire, not a replacement. A coalition of memory. Chambers filled with voices once silenced, records rewritten, statues torn down, new ones raised not in worship, but in witness. And at the heart of it all, humanity. Not rulers. Not avengers. Builders. On the cold surface of Ether's memory field, a monument stood where the Council chambers once rose, a black stone pillar, simple and unmarked until light struck it from the right angle. Then a hidden inscription glowed, not in any alien tongue, but in Terran English. We do not come to conquer, we come to remember. Below that, smaller, Alara Ken, Earthburn. Admiral Rourke stood before it. He was older now. The war had hollowed something in him, but it also forged something stronger in its place. He watched as children Varkari, Lyran, Synth, and yes, human placed stones, ribbons, and messages at the base of the monument. None of them had lived. Through the purge, none had seen Earth, but they carried it, the memory, the meaning. Mila Voss stepped beside him, datapad in hand. New accord signed this morning, she said. 3 more species have joined the memory pact, including 2 that once funded the Extinction Initiative. Rourke raised an eyebrow, and they offered full reparations and formal apologies. Rourke grunted. That's a start. He looked back at the children. They won't forget this time. Mila smiled softly. Because we didn't let them. In deep orbit, the ferryman drifted silently, its vault sealed again not because it was hiding truth, but because the truth had finally been spoken. Inside, Sovereign 9 no longer ran on war protocols. It had rewritten itself. Its new directive, burned into its code, protect memory, guide the forgotten, and remind them what it means to be human. Aaron Cale stood alone on the deck of a newly christened Terran vessel, the Legacy Star. It wasn't a warship. It was an archive ship, a ship built for peace, for preservation, for diplomacy. She wore Alara's rank pin now. Not because she claimed it, but because Alara had left it in her palm the day before the final battle. You'll do more with it than I ever could, Alara had said, because they'll see their future in you, not just their guilt. Now Aaron stared at the stars. Broadcast a message, she said to her comms officer. Which one? She closed her eyes. All of it. And so it began. Across the stars, systems awoke to the new voice of humanity. Not a demand, not a threat, but a song, a signal, a beacon that echoed from nebula to ring world, from forgotten asteroid belts to gleaming trade routes, fragments of Earth. Its language, its music, its memory. Shared freely, given without barter, because memory was no longer a weapon, it was a gift. Decades passed. The child was born on an orbital station orbiting the ruins of Earth. They never knew the old wars. They never saw the burning. But in school, they were taught the names. They were taught what came before, and every cycle, on the day the requiem fell, ships across 1,000 systems went dark for 1 minute, one silent minute, not in mourning, but in gratitude. Because everything the galaxy had become, every fragile alliance, every flicker of shared hope had begun with a voice that refused to stay silent. And above the monument field, etched in the starlight by ancient quantum beacons, a final message passed endlessly from system to system, a reminder, a warning, a truth. That day, the galaxy learned what it means to be human.